Welcome to the MVP show. Well, today's guest is simply amazing. He brings the energy. Chris Cognetta, I've known him for about 9 odd years now, became an MVP the same time as me. And I tell you, you're going to find this a full-on, information-rich, jam-packed, passionate podcast. You know, he's got Italian heritage and it absolutely comes out, and I love it. Full show notes for this episode is going to be available at nz365guy.com/147. We talk about, Orlando, CRM Summit coming up. That's actually next week from recording it right now, so you're going to be listening to it after. Just take that into context. Anyhow, let's get on with the show and listen to Chris. Hey Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to be there.
Mate, it's been a long time since I've had a chat with you, hasn't it?
It has. I think last time we caught up was last year, MUG, maybe.
Yeah, and so just for the audience listening, we're on a Thursday, running into a Friday where I jump on a plane and go to User Group Summit in Orlando, and of course, Chris, you're going to be there, right?
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing you and all the audience. If you're out there, come see us during some presentations or be at the Medic booth for a period of time there, and would love to have a chat.
Yeah, so audience, that ain't going to happen, right? Because you're not going to listen to this till after the event. It'll be published. So anyhow, not to worry about that. But Chris, tell us, what are you up to in the world these days?
Yeah, so, after working for one of the largest partners in the world, TriBridge, and taking a step back and looking at what I wanted to do, I really wanted to go back to R&D. I found an opportunity with a company in across the way from me. I'm based in Tampa, in Boca, called Campus Management, one of the largest higher ed providers in the world. And they were looking to build a product on Dynamics. So I've been spending the last year not only learning higher ed, working with Microsoft on delivering the higher ed accelerator, but also on delivering our Engage product, which is an admissions product today that helps students on board. Touches pretty much the entire Dynamics 365 suite. It's F&O, FHP. It's also CE. There's Power Apps involved, Power BI. We're using Flow integrations. I mean, there's nothing we're not touching in the stack. So really exciting time. And the team is really coming together.
For Microsoft products.
I mean, we'll use and tell them what we don't like, and certainly, but it has become so easy since the 4.0 days, right? I mean, we used to beg for some of these things. We were trying to get view changes and certain security roles back then, but from where we have taken the product as not only a product team, but I also credit a lot of the MVPs and the audience for your direction, and Microsoft listens, right? And us moving to the direction we're at now with the cloud-based platform, with the Azure capabilities, or Azure, depending on where you side of the pond you're on, it has really morphed into a platform for me. So I'll be at Tampa Dev the 26th. Tampa Dev is a local Azure type community. And I'll go there and I'll do a session on Power Apps AI in the real world. And they'll be like, what is this? What are you showing us? And then they come in and they see, there's no database guy, right? There's no code needed. And in 10 seconds, I got a mobile app off of data that I'm already consuming. And they're like, wow, and that is the change that I think companies are starting to see on how to use this platform. I think Microsoft has opened the floodgates with some of the things that the integrations, the connectors, the ability to leverage the platform to do some of these things like with AI and open up to models. If you have not seen the Power Apps AI capabilities, certainly take a look. There's some great things in there that you don't have to be a data scientist to do.
You're talking about AI Builder?
Yeah, I mean, you've been to you've been to Amazon, right? Amazon. Who hasn't been? Mark lives on Amazon, by the way.
Yeah, I do.
Every time Mark shows up at a hotel room, 25 Amazon packages show up right behind him. It's like they're timed to his, right?
You're so true, so true.
But so when you go to Amazon, if you ever look at the search bar, you can see that there's a little camera there. You can actually take a picture of like a toaster and it will use AI to recognize that toaster and go off and find you items that look just like it. Millions and millions of dollars to implement that. Okay, you can do that in like 5 minutes now in a Power App. I did it yesterday. You'll laugh at this one. So Julie and I are presenting Power Apps AI at the summit, and
Julie who?
Jules.
No, our audience doesn't know these random names. Give the,
Juliak, another Dynamics MVP from Colorado Technology. She's doing the AI stuff with me. She's going to do some of them. So I'm doing the object detection, and so I always wanted to do it with shoes. And here's my reason, mate. You know, your wife is always out shopping. She's buying all those shoes, right? So take a picture of the closet with all the shoes, be able to count them all up. You got 10 pairs of heels, 5 sneakers, 2 sandals. It can do that, right? So it's been really interesting in training the model app. For example, you wouldn't think that a shoe would be so difficult to train the model, but it is. You know, a sneaker to a shoe, a men's shoe, there's certain attributes that you have to think about on how the program is going to look at that. Like the heels are different. There's a thick rubbery heel on a sneaker. On a shoe, it's that more of that black, solid, refined look, right? The laces types are different. Sneakers usually have logos on them, right? So that's how you have to train the model. So learning how to train those models and working through that is certainly be fun. You can see I'm having a lot of fun with it. But that's one of the things that I'm doing on the side for the CRMUG show. The other is working with Jerry Weinstock, formerly of CRM Innovations, now also at campus. Jerry's working with me, and we're doing a flow presentation on all the lessons learned through really using flow as an integration tool. So this is bleeding edge. You know, a lot of people are using flows. Let me trigger this. Let me trigger that. We are actually doing integration between Dynamic CE and what we call the SIS, which is a Student Information System. For those of you who don't know what that is, you could say it's very similar to a ERP system for student financials. And moving that back and forth between flows, triggering information, calling web services, parsing the JSON requests. It's been quite a learning experience for all of us. So much that when we talked to the Microsoft product team, they told us that we're like bleeding edge when dealing with it. So that'll be a great one as well.
Okay, let's back up. Let's talk about being an MVP. How long you been an MVP?
This is my 8th year, so 2012 to 2020, basically.
What's the, you know, you're at Tribridge, right? When you first became an MVP. Just on Tribridge, it's they've been a topic of conversation of mine for the last 48 to 72 hours, chatting with a few people. What was the secret sauce that made Tribridge such an amazing company to work for?
If I can pinpoint anything, it would be the culture that was created by not only the management team, but as people came into that culture, they got absorbed, they got excited, they felt a part of the company, right? You know, everybody works hard, right? Everyone has the billability conversations, and everybody has the client that there's something going wrong with. The difference is that when management tells you make it right, we're not going to bill the customer. That's a big difference, and that was a competitive differentiator around the world. And the name and what was there, that is the culture that a lot of us that have left to go to other companies are trying to find, right? And, you know, with the merger, obviously you heard the news with the merger and what's been going on there, selling off different pieces and all that. And really, I don't follow it, Mark, because it's over, right? It's a done thing. I wish everybody the best. But as far as, you know, the news that you hear and what goes on, there won't be another Tribridge for a period of time. Just it was the right time, the right group of folks that put together. When you ask me what was the best job you ever had in your life, that's it, right? When you go to a job every day and you don't feel it's a job anymore, and you're not, you know, you're working sick, you're coming in whenever, it's a love, it's a passion. And they were able, through their process, through their hiring processes and the things that they taught everyone, we were able to bring that type of caliber. And if you wind up staying past a year and a half, you were a long-termer. You know, we had people there 24 years. So it was a good run. But I also can see that management, you know, you don't ever start a company thinking you're going to be doing it 20 years later, right? The idea is just to take the golden parachute and get out of there. And obviously things change, families, all the other stuff. It was time to walk away. The funny thing is they're all back. All of those leaders are all back in different companies, doing different roles and trying to bring that same culture into other stuff.
So tell me a bit of detail around the culture, right? You said people, they obviously created an environment where people did get excited. They wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to work, because they just loved it. But if you were to break down what created that culture, what were the elements? Like, give me 5 things that you saw the management do there, the leadership, shall we say, do there, that really created that amazing, environment to work in.
So the number one thing I think would be just the open door policy. You could go talk to anybody in the company, CEO, CFO, operations, it did not matter. They were there. They were truly listening to what you were talking about, right? They wanted to understand what and you may have been totally wrong, but they would spend the time to understand, why is this person feeling this way? What can we do to change it? What can we do to influence it? How can we better help our customers? And that was a big part of just listening, right? The second one was a yearly event that they put on called Connect. And when you are a remote organization, and we still had, 200 people or so in a central location, but most of the other people were outside, you don't feel a part of a team. Correct. You don't feel a part of a team. So there were several ways that we resolved that challenge. One was, when you're on site with team members, you'd have a get together. So, hey, I'm coming, like we do when we go to the summit, right? I'm coming in Sunday. This is my plane. Let's get together. Let's go have a dinner as a team. Right? So that was one thing. But Connect brought it to another level. The first Connect, I was totally blown away. We went to the the Orlando Epcot area there, and they rented a pavilion at Epcot. Okay? And we had, now think about this. This is 800 plus people coming to a location. A lot of us, Tampa, Florida, that kind of thing, they drove. But there was people from Italy coming. There was people from California coming. Think about the expense, okay? 3 days in a hotel, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, okay? With not only work events and getting everyone up to speed. So knowing where the company was headed, knowing what our financials were, knowing what our game plan was for the next year, how we were going to grow, what areas we were going to target. Monikers like Cloud Solutions was one of them that I still remember today, right? We were talking about that years before people started talking about where we are today. So visionary, bringing everybody involved into that meeting. Then they had a dinner, and that dinner turned into an award show. And a good friend of mine, Doug Blitzer, did all the audio, all the presentation awards and all that kind of stuff. He was like one of the directors there, but this was like his side thing. He loved dealing with that. And that combined with Disney was like, it's like you went to a gala awards event. So in this event, they decided, unbeknownst to me, that they were going to develop something called the TriBridge Hero Award. And they were going to give out this TriBridge Hero Award. And they had some voting within the company going on, and people were voting, basically, please vote for someone that, was non-selfish, a team player, always went beyond the Call of Duty, the person that you want to emulate the most, right? So they go through and they calling people up to the stage, and people are shocked with their pictures. And, they did 3 people. I'm still friends with both of those guys, and I was the third. And I got my plaque here, TriBridge Hero. That was 2013, and you were a hero. Your name went up on the wall in the when you came in, and all customers came in. They would see a plaque, and it said TriBridge Heroes. Would have all the people there, and it was just reconfirming the fact of how much I love my job and how much I was helping customers and the team to do things. So again, that's that investment in people. Training was second. The third one would be training. Training was second to none. Every training that you wanted to get was there. It was never a hassle to get it. Now, some people say, well, I can't train on the job. Well, I don't know about you, Mark, but have you ever trained on the job to be an MVP? Right? I mean, there's a commitment to your career that you need to bring. And you talk about being an MVP, but I say this to a lot of people. Yes, there's a part of it that you learn at work and you do things, but there's also that nights that you spend on trying to learn the object detection AI, right? That you'd rather be watching a football game or having a beer with your friends or being with your family. But in order to stay atop of these technologies, you got to commit time. You got to, I used to say, we're like doctors. Doctors are working all year long. They go away to these summits 2 or 3 times a year and learn new techniques. Then they got to implement those techniques for their customers and their patients. We're the same way. So the access to that stuff and the ability to say, yeah, I'm going to go get my MCSE, I'm going to go get my Azure certification across all the different groups, whether it was F&O, Dynamics, GP, it didn't matter. Wherever you were, they encouraged the certification, right? And that also made it easy for people to come on board and recognize value. These things aren't cheap. Some of them are $5,000, $6,000, right? The fourth one would be the TriBridge Academy. So TriBridge Academy, I think, was a game changer in how we look at consultants today. A lot of times we need to go, and you're in this market space, but maybe some of the people watching the show are not. But when you're in the professional service marketplace, it is a war for resources, right? You're fighting back and forth to get the talent, to get the people who know what's going on because you want to provide the best for your customer, but the pool is just too small. And that is a worldwide problem of resources. So if you guys think that you're a Dynamics person and you're not in a job that works for you, get out, because there's a ton of jobs that work for you that are waiting for that person that's going to do that, right? But the reason why I bring it up is because we started taking a look at it and we want to know how we were going to solve that problem. Again, another visionary thought from the CEO was, let's take kids from college, 4-year degrees, and let's bring them in as academy folks and put them through a boot camp that we built by ourselves for each product line and get them up to speed and teach them how to be consultants. I'm talking about everything from kids that never traveled before and didn't know what to do with their bags when they checked out of the hotel and had to go to the client. They didn't understand that they could put, check in their bags with the bellhop or put them in their rent-a-car. You know what I mean? Just things that we take for granted, we had to teach. But we also taught all the behaviors, right? On being successful, contributing, being a part. And what happened was amazing. We had 25, 30 of these kids that grew up right before I call them kids because, I'm the older guy, right? So I can almost be their dads in some cases. And I'm like, I just was amazed at the enthusiasm and what they brought to learn and be a part. They didn't know industries. They didn't have a specific Dynamics experience. Some of them didn't even have technical experience and became amazing technical people, right? The one area that really never really worked out was developer. I think you kind of know you're going to be a developer from the beginning, right? Either you picked it up and you started to do it, or it's very, very slim chances that you're going to go into your career and then start to want to become a developer.
Yeah. So you're telling me, let's say we just focused on 365 CE part of it. These folks that would come in would end up be functional consultants and then on to ultimately architects, right?
Correct. Yep. And all aspects of the project. So some of them became PMs, right? I want to do and what we did was we developed 4 different types of channels in the program, and we explained each one of them to them, and they had to go through each one.
What were the 4?
So obviously one is functional, which was the PM track, dealing with not only understanding the application itself, but also how to work with users, how to do training, how to bring all that stuff together. That's kind of, functional usually gets mixed with that. You can certainly have a secondary PO, but you and I both know they're going to send a functional consultant on site and expect them to lead the project, right? So we want to make sure they got that skill set and working up for that one. The second one was infrastructure architecture, which I ran. of course, my love. But at the time, dealing with servers, right? Dealing with people would come in and never, I mean, I know that this is an incredible number. People don't really understand this, but there's probably 85% of people who work on Dynamics that have never seen the server that supports it.
Exactly. 100%.
They don't understand the back end. ADFS, IFD, ring a bell?
Totally.
All
Right?
those things.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. Now it's like poof, it's gone. It's all in Azure, right? But those were big challenges. Deploying those things, upgrades, but understanding all the moving components. You needed to have multiple hats. You needed to know networking. You needed domain experience. You needed application server experience. You needed troubleshooting experience, database. It was just so that was one track. The other track was developer, where we introduced development skills from a CE perspective, right? JavaScript, writing JavaScript. You remember how we had to do that back in the day? Set them up with a problem, a real world problem. Hey, we want to update security roles, or we want to hide the tabs in 4.0, right? All that good stuff. And then the last one was like data and integration, right? So understanding databases, understanding how references work in the databases, and then using tools like KingswaySoft. At the time, there was also Scribe was very heavy, as well as forgot the other SSIS tool, but for the most part, using those Cozy Rock, using those tools and understanding how to do it. So they didn't have a choice. They had to go through all of those core class levels for those items, right? So they got a taste. So let's say you joined on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you got a whole idea of what TriBridge was. And then by the end of the following week, you have gone through the 101 course of every one of those. And at the end of that course, you would be able to think about it over the weekend and come back and say, yeah, I think this is my path. I want to stay focused in this. And you make that decision with your TriBridge peer, which was number 5, which was the TriBridge mentorship program. So we were actively encouraged to not only be mentors to other team members, but also for other team members to learn to be mentors. So they did both aspects of it, where new people coming in training, I like to say pay it forward. So what I did on my team is, as infrastructure guys, I had one of the fastest people to turn around and be billable. He was billable in 45 days. Okay, from infrastructure, which is pretty good, right? He was able to go on site, do an implementation in 45 days for bringing servers up and supporting the cast of team, but he was able to hold that role up in 45 days. Okay, so when the next step came up for him and part of his career, I said, okay, now the next guy coming in, you got to train him, right? And then together they grew, and they've both gone off now into other companies and have highly successful careers in that. They're all starting to look at Azure, of course, because of what's happening there. But again, the mentorship program brought it there. But that's just, if you add all these things together and you look at the company, the value, the mission statement, the things that we were trying to do as a group, I think the CEO said, hey, we spend more time with you guys than we do with our families. You are our families, right? And those are big words. A lot of people want to hide the emotions in the job. You know me, Italians, we wear it on our sleeve, right? It's just the way it is. So for me, it was an excellent fit, and it's sorely missed. And we're looking to rekindle that in the future. Just wait and see.
I love it. Okay, mate, we've cracked through some time, and I love the energy that you brought. And I have a lot more questions, but I'm actually going to talk to you next week about them over a beer. But let's do it. Let's do a wrap up. You've given me heaps. But before we do, what's if you could distill down the biggest benefit you've received of being an MVP? You're only allowed one. I want you to choose. Think in your mind, what's the biggest benefit in the 8-9 years you've been an MVP?
Yeah, I don't even have to think about it because it's on my mind every day. You know what that is, Mark? It's the relationships. The relationships I have, not only with my fellow MVP brothers like you, and Jerry, and other people out there, and I can't call everybody out, so shout out to all of you listening. But that relationship, to be able to get on a phone call, can I step back 1 second? I just want to say something else. There's this impression that an MVP knows everything. And that's a very important distinction, because back in CRM3, CRM4, an MVP did know everything. It is impossible today to know everything. You cannot know every aspect of what's going on in Dynamics, every aspect that's happening in Power BI, every aspect that's happening in Azure, everything that's happening in Flow, everything that's changing in Power Apps. You cannot. You can be a jack of all trades, master of none. Right? You will not get that time where. And sometimes I find myself going, man, I got to go back and look at this because I don't know. That's okay. But just realize that when you talk to an MVP, they may not have that answer. It doesn't mean they're not a smart guy or a smart lady. It just means that that's a growing area, and it's changing every 6 months to a year. We have these new updates, right? So that's also, we didn't have that. We had 3 years between 2004 and 2011, right? So I think that's part of the problem that people forget about, just aspect of that. But as back to relationships, the ability to call those other MVPs, and we've got a distribution list that when you're an MVP, you're a part of, both for MVPs only and to work directly with the Microsoft product team. So from my aspect, if I need a report, I can get Ehrlich. If I need some training sessions, I can talk to Gus. If I'm looking at Flow, I can talk to Jerry. If I'm looking at starting up a business, I'm talking to Mark, right? I have those relationships that are around the world. We are a family around the world, and it continues even after you're no longer an MVP, which is what makes it real, right? That makes it, you're not my friend because I'm an MVP. We became friends being MVPs, right? And that is the big difference there in what it is. So, and then you have the same relationship with the Microsoft team. We are talking to, in some cases, the guys that are directly influencing where the code is going to go for the next release. And we can, I wish they could get a video recording of one of our sessions, but we have a reputation as CE and CRM MVPs as being super hard on Microsoft, and we are. There's a lot of expectations. If you could be in some of these licensing conversations, you guys, it's very heated because we know what these impacts are to customers. We're in the field. We see what they are. We understand that Microsoft both needs to change and be profitable, but at the same time, we need to do that without losing everybody else. So, but that's the biggest thing for me, is that relationship thing. Of course, people see your trophies, people see your name, you add it to the end of your title. It does have that like doctor type of thing, right? Microsoft fellow type of thing. But my advice is, anybody trying to be an MVP, don't try to be an MVP, because if you do, you'll fail. You need to do it from the passion and love you have about the products. I did it because I was doing things that I could not find answers to on the web, and I started blogging about them. And next thing I realized, there's not that many people that know infrastructure stuff, and that became my jumping off point. With all these new products, there are plenty of spots for people to become MVPs and to be working in this stuff and pick a product, become good at it, blog about it. I like to say, save somebody that 2 o'clock in the morning pain when they're trying to figure something out by having your blog post out there. That should be your goal. If you can do that, that will continue to roll. Get involved in the CRM-UGs, get involved in your local user groups, do women in technology, do those type of things because you want to and because they're rewards for you. By doing those things, you will get recognized and you will wind up becoming an MVP, not because you wanted to be an MVP, but because you're doing all the other things.
I like it. Mate, we've got to wrap it up. I'm thinking of doing another podcast with you on one of my other shows because there's a lot more to discuss, I think, to get your experience out there in the market. But let's wrap up with some quick fire questions about you. These are totally random. Okay, are you ready? First one, would you rather have a cook or a maid?
I would rather have a cook.
Okay, what's the best gift you've ever received?
A Mustang.
Nice. What are you more worried about with the next what are you most worried about with the next generation?
What am I most worried about for the next generation? I would say that there's many different items. It's very hard to give you one item on that. But overall, peace to the world is really the big thing. We want peace. We don't want wars, right? That's a main message. But I would like to see them take the technology and the innovation that we have and solve some of the challenges we're having around the world. People to invest and do that. Certainly, philanthropy is something that everybody wants to be involved in, but money and career and all the other things get in the way sometimes. So, but those would be things that we want to distill in our children. My son we're actually building a power app together for his science project, so it's pretty cool.
Nice. I like it. If you could live in one sitcom, which would it be and why?
It'll be The Big Bang Theory.
Why?
And because again, I am, as a leader, I am not afraid to surround myself with people that are greater than me, that understand more than me, because that's how you learn. And having someone that at those levels, they always make fun of Wolowitz because he's not the doctor, right? But really, he's the one that's getting all the benefits of being able to see and understand these technologies. I think later on in the show, they started doing that with Penny now, right? Now Penny's starting to cite, energy equals mass creation by 2. I mean, it's really funny, but it's the truth. If you surround yourself with people who are not energetic, who don't want to get things done, who don't have a capacity to learn, then you're going to fall into that hole. Don't do that.
So true. I like it. What's your dream job if money didn't matter?
Dream job if money didn't happen? Well, I would always have wanted to be an astronaut. So I always wanted to be an astronaut. I thought that was something that, it's something that space and technology are things that really, I was born in 70, so 69 I was conceived. So, the rocket things were going on and all of that stuff. So for me, that is something that I love to do. My son wants to be an astrophysicist, which I couldn't be happier that I have an 11-year-old talking about quasars and dark holes and all these things. I mean, it's really great. I don't know what that means financially for his future, right? Is he going to make money from that? And it sucks that you have to have that conversation, right? That you can't just say, do what you love, but we're all under the same constraint.
What have you brought that you love so much you'd happily buy it again?
What have I bought that I love so much?
Yeah, you'd happily buy it again.
It's hard not to love a Shelby GT500. Again, I certainly am a car guy, love the toys, love all those kind of things. Those are all passionate. And, being around you can't help but want to buy gadgets.
Nice. So true. So true. Chris, mate, it's been amazing to have you on the show. Full on energy. Thanks for that. If people want to connect with you online, let them know your social deets.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mark, for having me. It's always a pleasure to not only talk with you, but also share experience with the audience. I think that's what it's all about. You can get me on Twitter at Cognetta, so CCOGNETTA. My blog site is www.cognettacloud.net. You'll find me at the CRMEG, although this audio is coming out after. You'll be able to look up the sessions and those kind of things in the future. And then you'll find me on some of Mark's podcasts. We've done some other funny ones in the past, so take a look at that. And then once again, thanks for having me, Mark. Appreciate what you're doing for the community.
Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you really enjoyed that show and the energy that came with it. As you know, I'm probably going to do another podcast with him a bit longer. We'll put it on the Dynamics 365 practice show, drill into a bit more of what he was talking about there around creating culture and business, because that was the goodies right there in that show. I would love it if you gave me a review on iTunes. If you could, go to nz365guy.com/iTunes. That'll take you to the iTunes store. Please leave a review. Make it an awesome one if you can. If you like it. If you don't bother. I only want feedback if you think this is awesome. Otherwise, just don't listen. But anyhow, full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/147. See you next week.